Hi, this is Shifting Perspectives, and I'm Daniel Posney. And today's topic is about when fear comes up when you're not only starting your spiritual path, but when you're going through some kind of transformation. Let's see. First, let me let you know that the retreat in Oahu is canceled in December. We didn't have any signups, so we canceled it. And the other thing is we've got another breathwork and sound coming up in November in Sedona, and we'll let you know when we have a date for that. Probably mid-November. So when fear comes up or when dark energies come up, I remember when I lived in Santa Barbara, I was going through, a phase that a lot of people that I see are going through. It's this exploring this newfound wisdom and knowledge and insight, and you're it felt like I was on like a rocket ship launched up. It was kind of like over the years of my marriage and all that time, I was kind of holding everything down and suppressing everything and just trying to be normal out there. And then everything changed, and then I was completely allowed to kind of look into myself and find out, what was going on on the inside. And from that start of that journey, I started to have all these lucid dreams. And I'd be laying on my bed in the morning. I can see the sunlight. I'm awake. My eyes are open, and then I close my eyes and I open them, and there's a squawking, like a bird squawking, and there I opened my eyes, and there's this huge, biggest raven I've ever seen on my bed, like 3 feet in front of me, flapping its wings and squawking at me. And I'm sitting there rubbing my eyes. I'm going, okay, am I dreaming? No, this is not a dream. This is real. I'm on my bed. The sunlight is here, and I tried everything to kind of stay in it because I wanted to experience it, but also realize that I wasn't dreaming. So there's this kind of awareness that happens. You go, okay, I'm not awake, but I'm not necessarily dreaming. And it's called a lucid state. But I call it being in a different reality. You're in a reality very similar to the one that you live in, and then you're having this experience. So I'm sitting there. I don't know, maybe it lasted for about a minute or so. And then, of course, I opened my eyes again, and I came back to this reality. I was in the waking state. And then sometimes in that room, I never felt any weird negative energies there. Not that I was very sensitive to that kind of thing yet, but um, I'd be laying in bed, and I could feel the covers being pulled off of my body. I could feel myself sort of levitating, and I kind of buried my head to try to like just, I don't know if I said go away, but I was just going, okay, is this happening or not? And then sometimes I'd be laying, sometimes especially on my side, but I would look up in the ceiling, and I'd see all these kind of flowing, moving dark. It's like globs. I feel like they were black globs. They were just kind of, or shadows. They were kind of moving across the room, and it was real. It was definitely real, and I wasn't dreaming. I was completely awake. And then there's been other times I've had lucid dreams, but there weren't the kind of dark energy, kind of dark feeling that I had in that. And I always wonder for myself, if I'm waking up spiritually, why am I having this dark stuff happening? It's not supposed to be like, it's supposed to be, love and light. And what I realized over the years, that was about 20 years ago, that it's kind of like we need to, there's several different feelings I've had about this. One is that I needed to embrace my own darkness. I needed to realize that the way forward wasn't all about love and light. It was really about looking at my shadows, and there they were. They were, visible in the, even as the representation as the of Raven. Raven is about magic and darkness and shadow, and all kinds of things related to opening ourselves up into out of the shadow. So that was a representation of my own shadows, and then also I realized that the shadow and what we call dark energies, if you really think about it, I have a way of looking at things that kind of, they're always for my benefit. So how could that be for my benefit? Well, if the shadows are coming towards me, or being represented around me, if I'm really moving towards the light, what would that cause me to do? Well, if I'm not moving towards the light, then I would curl up in a ball and I'd whimper and say, the darkness is overtaking me, and I'd go into that. But if I know that I'm going towards the light, then that darkness actually uh, allows me to express my light or bring up my light even more. And I really love that idea that the darkness is actually for me. And I know that there are some people that kind of worship the darkness and that kind of thing, but they never get to go into the light. But I don't worship it, but I see as it's also a part of me. So once I embrace that part of me that people want to push away, I actually get stronger from that, because it helps me. The darker it is, the more I shine my light. The darker it is, the more I shine my light. The more dark and evil the events around me, the more I need to shine my light. So if I keep on staying in that kind of process, then the darkness is actually for me. I don't want to stay there, but it's kind of an antagonistic ally, to use the words of Teal Swan. It's a catalyst for my own light. So the other thing is, over the years that I've been doing this session work for about 15 years, I've run across some really dark stories, some really heartbreaking stories. I think I've told this before, but I remember being in a really small room with this woman, and I was supposed to give her some guidance about healing from emotional trauma. And then she started telling me her story, and she said that her husband was a brain surgeon or something, pretty kind of well-known guy, and had a lot of powerful friends, and he was selling off his own daughters for sexual slavery. And on his deathbed, he was laughing. He was laughing at the whole thing about how stupid his wife was and how he got away with, all that kind of stuff, just that like sinister kind of stuff. And she was telling me about that, and her daughters were there at the retreat center that I was working with. And if it was only Daniel that this woman, and that we needed to rely on to provide healing in that time, I would have run out of the room and just maybe gone a little crazy. I can't handle it. I can't do this work anymore. It's too much. But because I do a little prayer before I go into my sessions, especially ones like that, and I say, Spirit come, Spirit come, Spirit come. What would you have me do? And what would you have me say? And what if I realized that the only truth was love? So I say that little thing, and I put the intention into it a long time ago, so I could just kind of say it out pretty quickly. And I know that it's not me, and I rely on all my training and research, but also that I've been in that darkness. And there are little aspects of me that can relate to that darkness. And the fact that I had those little experiences of the covers being pulled off of me, and that kind of that kind of thing that can drive you nuts. But I've realized, and I've experienced some of it. Had I not had those experiences, maybe I would have had a hard time. But I settled into that, and I kind of relied on light. I relied on spirit to kind of speak through me and make those things happen. So that can happen. These dark energies and feelings can happen when you're going through some kind of transition, or maybe when you need to bring in more light into your awareness. Um, so I was just recently working with a guy that had that kind of experience, and he's not a dark energy. I'm not a dark energy. Where he was staying was not dark energy, but he was going through a shift in his consciousness. And it's kind of like, here's a good analogy. Um, you're realizing more light of consciousness, and that light is coming into you, and to make room for that light, that darkness needs to leave. That's a pretty good analogy. So in order for that darkness to leave, it needs to be felt. So felt, understood, realized, embraced even, and allow it to leave, and then you allow room for more for that light. So that's another one of those, I guess, spiritual theories that I'll never be able to prove, but sounds pretty good to me, and it works for me. So anytime that we want to let go of something, we have to really understand it and even embrace it sometimes. So those shadow aspects of ourself can come up as a pain or a feeling or a fear, like that feeling of fear, that kind of fear that makes you the blood rush out of your face, and you get kind of, you know, your heart kind of, your chest kind of comes out, your heart kind of comes out of your chest, that kind of fear. And I've had that a couple of times, and that how I've worked with that is really breathing into it. So as I'm getting kind of overcome with that just overwhelming fear, and my heart is just getting ready to come out of my chest, my heartbeat, and I'm starting to feel very kind of prickly all over my body. I breathe into it, and I stay in that light. And I don't say a bunch of affirmations actually. I just kind of stay in that light, and I breathe, and I allow myself to kind of expand myself. If I imagine myself expanding myself in light, and that has worked every time. So anytime that we're going through some kind of transformation, some kind of shift in our consciousness, maybe you're going through a divorce, or there's been an illness or a death in your family, or some kind of accident, that's usually an opportunity for some kind of shift. If you're working with me and we're talking about different shifts in consciousness and different realizations, you're getting different epiphanies. What you thought was true before is not true anymore. It's kind of a, it causes a shift in your whole being sometimes. And if there is a feeling of physical pain, or um, I guess you call it psycho spiritual feeling or emotional feeling, that you're starting to feel some real fear. Imagine that that real fear is actually coming from your mind solely, and from your egoic mind specifically. That the egoic mind is saying, hold on a second, what I've built up all over these years is being, there's a possibility that may go away. That, like, I might lose my whole identity of self. And if I was the egoic mind, I would do anything I could to stop that process. And sometimes that's bring in some kind of a feeling, some kind of a thought that brings in, you know, quote, dark energy. And so, you know, some people feel that energy and they go, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. And then the egoic mind goes, yes, I did it. But ours is to kind of realize our position in this, and realize that the mind and what it's feeling is kind of a separate aspect of ourselves. And we have this awareness of being, that even though there's this fear of nothing, actually, there's actually nothing there. There's a feeling there, and having awareness that we can actually move beyond that into light. So that's what I just want to share about that. Just to be clear, you're a badass being of light, and fear can't really go into that if you realize that. If you just say affirmations and may God strike you down, and might bring in the Christ consciousness, but you don't believe it, that you don't believe that you are that light, then that fear can kind of go, you know, I that's bullshit. You know, I can go right through that. But if you really know that you are the light, it really has an effect on it. And I've had experiences like that before, where there's been another lucid dream experience where there's this golem kind of gargoyle creature, and it's right there, and it's on my beloved, and it's pounding away, and I move into another dimension to block that being, and I actually move my body and slam into this thing, and I go into it. They, hey, listen, asshole, you can't be here right now. And I really, like, I use that anger right there, that this is the light, this is the fierce light coming in right now. and that did it. And the being went away and never came back again. So and I've heard the opposite, where people, where they, if they cower in it, it's not like this. I don't know if there's actually evil energies, but there are energies that are dark and they feed off of fear energies. And it's kind of like they're not meaning to do any harm, but they're just being who they are. It's like a scorpion is being a scorpion. So if we kind of see them as that, and there's also races, from what I understand, that galactic races that kind of all that are that way also. They're kind of black, dark, sinister energies, but they're just themselves. There's just another reflection of consciousness, and that's just the way they are. So when we see them, embrace them, and actually see a part of them in us, and then they kind of go, oh yeah, there's no need for me to go into this and try and get something from this being, from this human being. So I know it's kind of out there, but it's worked for me. I hope it works for you. If you want to know more, just contact me, and we'll have a session or just have a more in-depth conversation. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a blessed day, and I thank you so much. I love you.